Hello, my name is Maximiliano Roman. I'm doing my presentation is about an artist by a mural named not in our name by Juana Alicia and Genny. So the story, the artist story is Juana Alicia was born in New York, New Jersey, and grew up in Detroit. Um, in many interviews, she holds very high regard Detroit and mentions that one of her inspirations of to who she is now was a specific mural in the Detroit Institute of the Arts was made by the Rivera. Um, and this art, I've referenced it before. I've seen it. It was men working at factories, um, in a very pristine factory, pretty much showing the future, or at the time was seeing the future of Detroit. Anyways, I don't want to get too much into it, but pretty much she referenced that as one of her main inspirations to pursue what she's doing now. She around her in Detroit, she was surrounded by a lot of African American families. She was the only really Spanish speaking family for a couple blocks. She says, and this is all from an interview that she had, and she mentions time and time again that she she how do I say it? She she feels part of the African American culture in Detroit, but she doesn't feel um, she associates herself, but she does not feel part of it. She she recognizes that she will be an outsider, right? She will not fully be um, she will not fully feel embraced. So pretty much in the early 1970s, she was recruited by Cesar Chavez to join the Union for Farm Workers, or UFW. And she moved to Salinas to work alongside with the workers working the field. And also, she made a couple posters promoting the union. Um, but then by the early 1980s, she moved out of Salinas and moved to San Francisco's Mission District, and where her murals began, where her art truly started flourishing. She started working with other local artists at the time, and joined many collectives. She joined Las Mujeres Muralistas, which is a group started by Patricia Rodriguez. Originally, I was going to talk about one of her artworks, but later I got inspired by one of Juana Alicia's artworks, which is actually so one of her first works was La Lechugueras, right? This artwork in particular was has a bit of a conflicting story. Um, so there's two places that I was like asking about this question, this image or this mural, and one of them was talking about how it was made in 1983 or was started in 1983. I'm not quite clear because in another one in SF MoMA, the page said that this was an artwork in 1985. Um, One thing I do want to highlight is that this artwork is not standing still, but it quite shows her history, the impact that UFW had on her and her experience in Salinas, with through this artwork highlighting how many people didn't at the time didn't know what was happening to farm workers, right? Some people did, some people didn't, and I felt that this mural quite shows the troubling treatment that many uh, farm workers have, like how they are treated in these places, by not respecting them as human beings. Through unforeseen circumstances, they have to come to the United States and work for many U.S. farms, but it's through pretty much exploitation that I see it that they're in this situation. Pretty much one of the farm workers are pregnant and is shown still being sprayed pretty much directly with the pesticides from the airplane. And yeah, anyways, and then this artwork would later be changed to La Llorona Sacred Waters. Um, it's really interesting. I really think you guys should go look at it, and watch the history and do your research on it. I think it's a very great um, piece that kind of is all connected through water. It's like flowing. It's like very. It all flows together, and I think it's really great. Um, it's in. If you want to see it, it would be on 21st and Mission, right at the corner, right next to San Francisco Taqueria, and across from like a bar in front of like this. But yeah, you could go down. It's really amazing. Um, and yeah, so this is one of her artworks in the 80s. She would make a couple more. She made, but there's not many of them that are still standing to this day, sadly. Um, they all pretty much are have been either replaced or are just destroyed. But sadly, yeah. Thankfully, there's pictures on my cell phone that you can do your research on. Anyway, she kept pushing her art forward, but she had to leave SF and now lives in Berkeley, California. Um, so she was one of the few teachers that has tenure at Berkeley City College. She would continually teach and there, and would but now she's retiring. This is around April 2017 where she announced this from the news article. She has taught in the UC system, and in Stanford she has a couple of artworks. Um, Her journey as a muralist is quite inspiring and has done a lot for our community, and is a very legendary figure in the art scene right now. Um, at the bottom, and I also want to highlight that um, during the 1980s, she would do a lot of work with other women, like the muralistas de mujeres, as I mentioned earlier, and then later on, once she got kicked out from SF, or not kicked out, she got pushed up in SF because of the high prices. I kind of want to highlight that she um, recognized that gentrification is a really big issue, and how many people of color get pushed out, are forced to go to places that whose environment isn't the cleanest, who might have some environmental problems, um, that could cause harm to themselves. And this type of, I guess, realization or newfound perspective, kind of shifted her artwork more further away from a more um, it still focuses on political issues, but it more focuses on women and environmental at the same time. Like at the bottom one, this is a more recent one in Berkeley, where it shows the oil spills. In the background, you have oil rigs pumping out oil, right, and distilleries. No, that's not the right word. Refineries, right? But then right next in the water, there's always some sort of spills happening, causing death to leak into the water, is killing many animals, and kind of rotting away the animals that live that are rely on light, and in general, and just causing a lot of harm for no real benefit. That is just some bucks. But yeah, I'm gonna. So this is the Not in Our Name mural. It's in SF in the Balmy or Balmy Alley, I think it's called. Pretty much, it's an alley between 17th Street and 18th Street. And um, Yeah, yeah, between and on Valencia. Anyways, so this artwork um spoke to me. There's a video associated with this too. But pretty much, I think it's very captivating how this mural was able to show both the emotion and the trauma that many people are experiencing in Gaza in Palestine right now, with the mothers suffering, seeing both the destruction of their homes, destruction of their families, destruction of their kids, their husbands, their like pretty much their whole families getting killed in this genocide essentially, and how you can see in the middle there's a mother mourning the loss of her child, right? And the one above is trying to console her, help her through the situation. And in the background, you see many of them, many women looking up, um, mourning, mourning their loss and hoping that it would all change. Like, you have the one with her fists up, like the power movement, right? um, Wanting, still looking distraught, but still wants some sort of fight, some sort of push for some sort of change to end this type of cycle of suffering and destruction. And in the background, the clouds, right? Like when I initially saw it, I was kind of thought that the background was just some sort of aesthetic choice, but nah, like very clearly it's a like a cloud of destruction, like of like from missiles that are being constantly launched and burning from buildings, right? Because in the background you can see rubble, right? Like with right over here you can see rubble, broken streets, broken buildings, right? And then right here you have a child staring right at us blankly, um, clearly small, right? But very but with very developed face, right? Which kind of just maybe it's not direct, but pretty much you could see the stunted growth that a lot of children are experiencing in Palestine due to the lack of nutrition that they're experiencing. Um, so pretty much, this child looks pretty old, I would say, and is very short. Um, it kind of intentionally or not, kind of shows the situation that many kids are facing. Both the trauma of losing their friends, losing their cousins, and then also at the same time, maybe even losing siblings. I've seen many stories of like children pretty much losing their whole bloodline, like everybody, like they have no more family. They don't have a dad. They don't have a mom. They don't have a sibling. They don't have grandparents. They don't have auntie or uncles. They're literally the last one of their bloodline to be alive right now. And that amount of trauma is kind of ridiculous to even try to argue against or try to minimize, right? This is just a tragic loss on both the mothers and the children that are being forced upon them for a situation that, in my opinion, is very nuanced yet problematic and needs to be solved, right? But back to the child, his nutrition, his growth has been stunted due to the lack of nutrition that is flowing through the city, that is being controlled by the IDF and is being weaponized as a form of torture and attack, trying to starve out or stop the movement of soldiers that Hamas has been getting, right? So one of their strategies is just holding out on food from with Palestine, making sure we're like soldiers, new soldiers, which would be young children, are not getting any stronger, are not developing right, and yeah, and the black and white choice has been used to kind of show the sheer trauma that is being shown, like the how black and white the situation is, how not black and white, that's not the right word, but how grim it is, how depressing, I would say, is right now. And I also want to both highlight the texture she's able to get, kind of seeming like a rainy sense, like it's raining, right, with the background. But then as you see more of the foreground, it's just like the texture of that she happens to choose. And then this part was made by Juana Alicia, but then the next part was made by Genny Lim, and you could read it. You can stop and read it. One of my favorite things about this poem that she wrote is both the first part shows the life of um, people in Palestine right now. People are experiencing massive hunger, massive are experiencing hunger, starvation. They're experiencing a level of thirst that is insane. Um, it's also highlighting both the deaf children are experiencing, the loss of life within children, and how, but yet, after all this, like kind of oppression that is happening to them, they still resilient. They're still gonna live on. They're not gonna be forgotten. They're gonna be remembered and um, honored, right? And be remembered, but their names will not be remembered by their names, right? What happened to them was not caused by them. What happened to them was will be a tragedy and will be a stark reminder of what we let happen in our world, right? In the world around us, we have we should never allow this to happen to children, to mothers, to anyone experiencing this amount of trauma. And but it'll be lived on. The truth will prevail. Um, People will not forget. And yeah, Jenny Lim, a very proclaimed poet from SF, second gen. There's not much um, information on her. I tried making a whole story revolving about her past, but yeah, um, great, really really powerful writing. And these are my sources. With the first two, SF MoMA, there isn't like, okay, there wasn't a day of publish or some sort of author. With the our news article, there hasn't been an actual, the writer wasn't um, released, but yeah, you could go to all these. My favorite one is the very last one. That's oral history. And another thing, this is how it's formatted. So here is the poetry. Here's the poetry, and then here's the artwork. And yeah, thank you so much.